bet you can. I was sitting at Lake and Fourth. A lot of the cabbies don't like that neighborhood, because of all the Negroes. No offense. I mean, not that you look it, but... Mr. Harris, I'm not African American, but even if I were, I'm sure I would devoutly wish we would stay on course. But you never know these days, am I right? Goddamn PC Nazis. A man can't speak his mind anymore. I got a friend, Danny Poe, and he's just as black as the ace of spades, and he calls himself a... Well, I'm not going to tell you what he says, but he uses it all the time. And if he don't care, why should we? Mr. Harris. Sorry. Anyway, so, I'm in this neighborhood, which, yeah, some people say ain't so great. And I'm eating my lunch, ham and Swiss with mustard on Wonder Bread in case anybody needs to know. When all of a sudden, my cab was on its side. You didn't hear anything? Son, I didn't have a single hint. 1 second I was eating, and the next I was lying on my side, and all the garbage on the floor was raining down on me, and I dropped my sandwich, and the side of my head was resting on the street. I could hear somebody walking away, but I couldn't see nothing. But that wasn't the worst of it. What was? Well, I was still trying to figure out what happened, and wondering if I could get the mustard out of my new work shirt when I heard this really loud scream. Was it a man or a woman? Tell you what, it was hard to tell. I mean, I know now because I saw them, both of them. But I didn't know then. Whoever was yelling was having their legs pulled off or something, because they were shrieking and crying and babbling. And it was the worst sound I ever heard in my life. And my daughter's tone deaf and has always taken up new musical instruments, like that time with the tuba, but that was nothing compared to this. What did you do then? Well, shit. I climbed out of the passenger side of my cab as fast as I could. What'd you think? I was a medic in the war. Vietnam, that was. I hung it up after I got back stateside, and I never went to a hospital again. Nope. Not even when my wife, God rest her, had Anna. But I figured I could maybe help. My cab was insured. I didn't mind about that. But someone was really in trouble, and that was a lot more important. I thought maybe somebody had backed over their kid by accident. Some of those alleys are pretty dark. Hard to see stuff. And then? Then the bus pulled up. It almost hit my cab. And that was weird, because it was pretty late for the buses to be running, and this one was empty except for one passenger. Then this gal jumps out, and the bus just sits there. I seen the bus driver just staring at the gal like she was made of chocolate ice cream. And then I got a good look at her. Can you describe her? Well, she was tall, real tall, about my height, and I'm just shy of 6 feet. She had light blonde hair with them streaky, what do you call 'ems? Highlights. She had kind of reddish highlights. And the biggest, prettiest green eyes you'd ever seen. Her eyes were the color of them old-fashioned glass bottles, those real dark green ones. And she was real pale, like she worked in an office all the time. Me, my left arm gets brown as a berry in the summertime, on account of how it's always hanging out my cab window, but my right arm stays real white. Anyway, I don't really remember what she was wearing. I was mostly looking at her face. And, Are you all right? It's just... This part's hard is all. I mean, this gal was maybe 5 or 6 years older than my daughter, but well, let's say I wanted her the way a man wants his wife on a Saturday night, if you know what I mean. And I'd never been one to horn dog after kids young enough to be my kid. And never mind that my wife's been dead for 6 years. So it was kind of embarrassing, too, that even though those awful screams were still sort of echoing in the air, here's me all of a sudden thinking with my dick. Well, sometimes under stress, a person... Wasn't stress. I just wanted her is all. Like, I never wanted anybody. Anyways, I stared at her, but she didn't pay me no notice. Gal like her, she probably gets old coots like me staring at her 20 times a day. She didn't say nothing to me, just marched back toward the alley. So I followed her. There was a couple of streetlights back there, so I was finally starting to be able to see stuff. Made me feel a lot better, I can tell you. And just like that, before we could even get there, the screams stopped. It was like someone had shut off a radio. That's how sudden it was. So the gal, she starts to run. Which was funny to see, because she was wearing these teetery high heels, purple with bows on the backs. She had teeny feet. And these pretty little shoes. It was kind of funny to see that. And then? Well, she could sure move in them shoes, and that was a fact. She must have been a real track star or something. And I was right behind her. And we get to the alley, and right away, I seen it was a dead end, and I didn't want to go too far in. It's funny. I never think about the Nam no more, but that night, it was like I'd just gotten back home. Man, I was noticing everything. I was really wired. Could you see anyone in the alley? Not at first. But then the gal says, real loud but firm, you know, like a teacher, let him go. And then I seen there were two guys and they weren't standing 10 feet away. Don't know how I missed them before. One of them was this little short squirt, but he was hoisting a guy bigger than me, holding him up off the ground. He was slamming the guy into the brick wall real hard, and the big guy's head was sort of lolling all over the place, and he was out cold. But then, when the gal talked, the little guy let go, and the guy who'd been doing all the screaming hit the bricks like a sack of sand. I mean, he was out. And the little guy marches up to us, and all of a sudden I was just scared shitless. Did you see a weapon or nothing like that? He was just bad, I guess. He was about a head shorter than me, and he had kind of gray skin. And one of those little black mustaches, real thin. Me, I think a man should grow a real soup strainer or nothing at all. Anyway, he looked like a little punk, but there was something about him. I just wanted to get away from him. It was like something inside me knew he was bad, even if I couldn't see for myself exactly what it was. And let me tell you, I watched my own dear wife die from cancer of the stomach. She went an inch at a time, and it took 8 months. I didn't think nothing would ever scare me after watching that. But that guy... Do you need a break, Mr. Harris? Hell no. I want to get this over with. I promised I'd come down and tell you, so here I am. Anyway, this guy, he gets real close and he says, "This is none of yours, false queen." And the way he talked, it was real old-fashioned, like, I don't know, like people talked maybe 100 years ago. And his voice? Jesus, I got goosebumps all over. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. But the gal didn't seem to care. She straightens right up and says, "Oh, blow me, get lost before I lose my temper." Blow me? Sorry, but that's what she said. I remember it real well because it was a shocker. I mean, I'm a big guy, and I was scared. She was a kid, and she didn't sound scared at all. Then what happened? Well, the little mean guy, he looked like he was gonna fall over. I was shocked, but he was... well, he was really shocked. Like no one had ever talked to him that way in his whole life. I don't know, maybe no one had. And he says, "My meals are none of your business, false queen." That's what he kept calling her. False queen. Never did hear her name. False Queen. Yeah, and she...